Hari Om. Let's start with the prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanora Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Bande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are now doing the 10th chapter of Panchadashi, which is essentially, let me see where we are, called Nataka Deepa Prakaranam. This is the first 5 chapters we said deals with the Sat, and from chapter 6 to 10 it deals with the Chit consciousness aspect, and from 11 to 15 about Ananda. So this is Deepa Prakaranam, therefore it's a nature of the consciousness that is being. Deepa means that which illumines, and that is of the nature of the light of consciousness that we are talking. And Nataka is the drama. So the analogy of a stage where there is a dance drama is going on, or dance is going on, and there is dance being illumined by the lights that are required, the floodlights or whatever, and in that light only we can see the drama, we can see the dance. So the presence of the light itself is needed to see, but the light itself doesn't do anything other than illumining. So the life itself to be looked at as the natakam, as the life of a drama, where the Jiva takes the role of a dancer, and the buddhi, the intellect, and the equipments are all together needed to do dance, and that is what the analogy is. But the light of consciousness is a sakshi, does not get involved in the activities of what goes on the stage, but without its presence we cannot see anything. That's the analogy here. And we are looking at the nature of the reality, and Vidyaranya gives from first the creation aspect, from which the whole what was there before is Satchidananda, and which is Advayam, non-dual, it means it is Ekameva, Advitiyam, and that became many. That's what the scripture says. That's why Vedanta becomes a pramana. And it itself became many, because being a Brahman, there is nothing other than it. So if there is a creation, it itself has to create from its own self. So it is both the intelligent cause as well as the material cause. And then who is a Jiva? Itself is as though entered into the Jiva as a conscious entity. How does infinite consciousness enter into local as a local consciousness? Because there are many jivas, as though in each one it is entering. It is pravisheshat jiva rupadaha, pravishas jiva rupadaha. It is as though, quote and unquote, because infinite cannot enter anywhere, because it's very substratum from the whole, or substantive for the whole universe. But in its presence of, because it's the nature of Deepam, light of consciousness, and in its presence the things get lighted. So in the presence of sunlight, the moon gets lighted and becomes a luminous entity in the process. Same way, the luminosity doesn't belong to the moon, but belongs to the sunlight only. So when I'm looking at the moon and seeing the light of the moon, to recognize what I'm seeing is only reflected sunlight, and therefore it's only a light coming from the sun only via the moon. The same way, pure consciousness is all pervading, and it gets reflected in the buddhi, and buddhi becomes a conscious entity by the process of reflection. And reflection of consciousness is called Chidabhasa, and buddhi is an instrument, because being a subtle, it can reflect. We already discussed that depending upon the purity of the mirror of reflection, that means the buddhi, the reflection also varies. So even though I have the same constant unchanging light of sunlight, depending upon the nature of the reflecting media, I get different light. So I see moon, I see the other planets in the sky, all are reflecting only sunlight, and in between there is no reflection, because between the moon and the Mars or Venus that I see in the sky on a full moon night, there is no object there for me to see. Why? Because there is no object that reflects the sunlight. Not that there is no sunlight. Sunlight is still there, but no medium for me to recognize the presence of sunlight. These things become important as we go along. And when the creation is, he himself became many. That's what it says in the first sloka, Swayam eva jagat bhutva. So it itself became many, and into each jiva it entered as though, and each jiva became as though conscious entity. All reflected consciousness only. Original consciousness cannot enter anywhere. But since I see that each one is different, each one is a conscious entity, therefore we say that they borrowed consciousness only. And the differences in all jivas now is only due to reflecting media. Reflecting media can differ because of the nature of the purity of the intellect. Purity and non-purity depends upon the punyam and papam. So punya is higher in the devatas, papam is higher in the rakshasas. So in between there is a gradation of all, and there are 14 lokas. In each loka there is the ratio of punyam to papam keep changing for the jivas. So he gave an example, Vishnu, the verse 2, Vishwadyuttama deheshu pravishto devata bhaved martyad jadama deheshu stito bhajati martyatam. So Vishnu adi uttama deheshu. So he is concerning even Vishnu is also a body where it says Chaturbhujam, and also all the descriptions, Shantakaram, Bhujagasayanam, Padmanabham, all those. Or he entered as though reflected consciousness, and that is because of the highest punyam. It means it was sattva gunam. Punyam is pure sattva gunam. So higher the sattva guna, the greater the divinity is higher, and lower the tamo guna, and it is the procrastination and the selfishness, all that comes from the tamo guna, and in between you have rajo guna. So depends upon the extent of sattva in relation to rajas and tamas, you have varieties of jivas. So martya adhama, so you call it adhama. The lower is essentially deheshu. Martya means the one who are martya, who are relatively shorter life compared to Vishnu, and Sito Bhavati Martyatam. So we'll do verse 3, we finish verse 2. Aneka janma bhajanat savicharam chikishataha savikaram chikishataha vicharena vinashtayam mayayam sishyate swayam. Together, aneka janma bhajanat savicharam shikirshati vicharena vinashtayam mayayam sishyate swayam. So ayam maya sishyate swayam. Aneka janma bhajanat. So this is given the situation that we have different varieties of jivas, and each jiva thinking that I am only a local jiva, forgetting that I am the Satchidananda Swarupam, as though appearing in this form, considering myself as an independent conscious entity, or the consciousness is my own intrinsic nature, and being identified with the local equipments as I am this, and not able to appreciate the limitations of the body, mind and intellect, because I am the body, mind, intellect, and the limitations of the body, intellect are my limitations, and therefore recognizing that I want to solve a problem, I want to be, my nature is infinite, and I am taking it as a finite, so I want to solve a problem to make the finite into infinite by acquiring this, acquiring that, etc. So I am trying to solve a problem of limitations of body, mind, intellect by gathering this and gathering that. That's what rat race is. And I will never be able to solve a problem because the problem is the solution is not really valid, because I am trying to make body, mind, intellect infinite by adding a finite things. So finite plus finite can remain only finite only. It may be bigger finite than smaller finite. All that is become part of the recognition that it is nothing to do with my real nature. So aneka janma bhajanat. So once I understood the problem, understanding the problem is recognizing that by action I cannot become infinite. So because I am recognizing that I am limited and I want to get that, and that can be only obtained by performing an action. So any action cannot give me that result because action being itself limited. So by process of the acquiring things, I am trying to reach infinite. So once I understand the problem that because of the nature of this, what is that? The limitations of action itself. So pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedamayan nasya krutakkrutena. So Upanishad says, after examining my own life after life after life I am spending and trying to solve a problem through gaining this or gaining that, and now I recognize that by action I cannot reach that which cannot be obtained by any action. So therefore, tad vijnanartham sa gurum eva abhigached. In order to solve this problem, I had to go to a teacher. That is what Vedanta says. So here, aneka janma, so karma becomes a karma yoga. In order to do that, I had to purify the mind. I had to purify the mind so that the knowledge can take place properly. I can understand who I am and what is this world. That's what essentially in the Viveka Chudamani, the scripture says, Konam abandha katamesha agataha, katam pratistasya, katam vimokshaha, kosavan atma paramah ka atma, tayor viveka, says, itam. So the student goes and asks the question, what is bondage, what am I, and so on and so forth. That inquisitiveness starts coming only when I start questioning it, and the questioning comes only when my mind is pure enough to recognize the limitations of all the pursuits in life. That can happen only when the purified mind. Purification of the mind occurs through Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga requires the presence of Ishvara or recognition of the Ishvara, because he is the Karma Paladata. Karma Yoga, karma is we are doing, karma becomes a yoga only when you bring Ishvara into picture. So it involves Ishvara Arpita Buddhi and Prasada Buddhi, and along with Upasana Yoga, that means Bhakti is involved, Upasana of the Lord. So I surrender myself, because that's how Krishna says, Daivim Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratchaya Mame Vaye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. So Daivim Esha, Esha Maya, this Maya is of the divine origin. You cannot really cross yourself by your effort. So you have to surrender yourself to it. Then only surrender to me in order to cross it. That becomes a bhakti. Here, aneka janma bhajanat. After many lives of living through, we are starting from a unicellular to all the way up to human being, and we have reached a stage of human being. And even human being, if you look at Manushyanam Sahasreshu, there are thousands of people here. Of that, only very few people are interested. So, in order to have inquiry, jignasatvam, you need to have many lives are required. So Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam. Mumuksha means trying to get liberated. That's what is essentially Aneka Janma Bhajanat. Says Bahunam Janmanamante. Krishna also says, after many, many lives, one can approach me. So Aneka Janma Bhajanat. After many, many lives, says living in the recognition that I am a limited, or this body, mind and intellect are limited. I am this is limited, and this has to be surrendered to whom it belongs to, because the whole universe is nothing but the Ishvara itself. So Aneka Janma Bhajanat. Bhajanat is also the devotion to the Lord. Devotion to the Lord, who is Ishvara. Ishvara is the one who is Jagat Karta Ishvaraha. He is the one who is created the whole universe. That's how we define Ishvara. So how did he create? Then Jagat Karanam Ishvaraha. He is material cause also. So I had to see the presence of the Lord everywhere, because he himself became many. That's how the first mantra is also. First the verse is Swayameva Jagat Bhutva. He himself became many. And recognition of that becomes a bhakti. Aneka Janma Bhajanat Swavicharam Chikirshata. So Aneka Janma, after purifying the mind by many lives, so how do I know I have purified my mind? The very fact that you are listening to Vedanta itself shows that you have a mind, inquisitive mind, to know the truth. That itself is purification of the mind. That itself is a litmus test that I want to know what is the truth. And there are many people who do not even know this is the truth, and they don't even have faith that this is the truth also in Vedanta. So it requires Aneka Janma Bhajanat. Swavicharam. Vicharam means inquiry about who am I. Says Kosavanatma. Who am I? What is myself? What is this world? Who is created this world? Who is the Ishvara? What's my relationship with Ishvara? Why should I pray Ishvara? All these questions comes under Vichara. So Vicharam. So this is Athato Brahma Jignasa. So that's how the first sutra of the Brahma Sutra says. Athato Brahma Jignasa. Then therefore inquire into nature of Brahman. Then what? Then therefore. So then means after completing certain things. So thereafter. Which after? Whereafter? Because nothing was said before. That's the first sutra. Thereafter, before the Acharyas have defined what exactly it means by thereafter. Thereafter means after. This is Aneka Janma Bhajanat. After purifying the mind by several lives, that is, I need to have a Chitta Suddhi. That is, Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutvam are the requirements. Having gained those requirements, thereafter, so Athato Brahma Jignasa, then they inquire into the nature of Brahman. How do I inquire? Inquire into that nature of Brahman. Tad Vijnanarsam Gurum Eva Abhigachet. I have to go to a teacher and they inquire. How do I inquire? Krishna says, Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprasnena Sevaya. So go to teacher and then ask appropriate questions. Teacher is not going to answer anything unless he wants to know why have you come. So you have to ask so that he can understand from your question what is required for him to satisfy your intellect. So there you have to ask the question. In the Viveka Chudamani, he asks Kunam Abandhaha Katamesha Agataha Katam Pratistasya Katam Vimokshaha Kosavanatma Paramah Atma. So they ask several questions. Is Konam Abandha, what is bondage? Katame, how did it come? Katamesha Agataha. Katam Pratishtaha, how does it get established? Katam Vimokshaha, how can I get liberated from this bondage? And Kosavanatma, what is this Atma? And Paramah Ka Atma, what is the Paramatma? So he is asking several questions and one after the other, after approaching a teacher. So tadviddit pranipasena. For those who are interested, we have taken in the Advanced Vedanta series on the YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and ask Acharya Sadaji, there is an Advanced Vedanta where essentially the Viveka Chudamani text is followed closely, where this sloka has been analyzed and how the teacher reorganizes the question and answers the student. So vicharam, swavichara, by inquiring oneself, chikishati. So essentially, that by having a desire to know, you inquire itself. Vicharena, by inquiring. So vicharena, because of the inquisition, you have to inquire, who am I, what is this problem, and if I don't know, then I have to go to appropriate teacher. So for that, Gurum is the one we are talking about, not any other Guru, the one who is Adhyatmika Guru, one himself understood all these questions, what is bondage, who am I, what is the Lord, he should know. And how did he know? He has approached his teacher. And not only he has learned from his teacher, he also learned what are the pitfalls in the particular paths, and therefore he can advise the student properly. And different students are having different sorts of problems, and each student approaching same teacher, but each teacher is familiar with all problems that are there so that he can advise. So vicharena, by inquiring, ayam maya vinishtayam. Ayam maya, this maya is get dissolved, vinishtayam, is limitations of the maya are understood, and therefore it's rejected. How do you reject the maya? Maya means it's not really there, but it appears to be there. And maya, understanding maya is to know that maya is not really real, it is mithya only. So therefore mithya does not bother me. So mirage water, if I understand the mirage water is only a mithya, then I don't want to go after, even though I may be thirsty. If I go after the mirage water, I become more thirsty because I am walking more and more towards it, and it keeps shifting away from me. So I become more thirsty in searching for happiness where there is no happiness. That's what essentially mithya means. Maya, that is maya means delusion. So here is taking the apparent plurality as a reality is a delusion. Illusion is not a problem. You can enjoy the illusion just like knowing. We go to a magic show, knowing that what he is showing is not really real. Yet we enjoy and appreciate even though it's not real. It's called Indrajalam. Indrajalam means magic show of the Indra, or Indrajalam is magic show itself. We can enjoy the magic show knowing well it's not really real. So same way maya, mayayam, vinishtayam. So understanding maya or crossing the maya is nothing but a recognition that it's not really real. That means jagat mithya, and even the seeking is mithya, and even my problems are mithya. I am eternally free. That's what essentially vinishtayam mayayam. Sishyate swayam. What remains is really true is only I am. I see the world, but I am actually substantive, both for subject-object duality and the essence of both, and that is recognition of that is sishtayam. So aneka, that occurs after aneka janma bhajanat. Now the question we ask is, how many janmas more I have in order to recognize, because I don't know, this life is not sufficient for me. If you start that, then obviously you need more lives. But if you recognize all the lives are, now I have come to that end, now I am ready to jump in, and this is my last janma, I am going to realize, then you will realize. Otherwise you will be postponing only. So you take it for granted this is the last janma and approach the problem to solve it. Do now 4. Advayananda rupasya sadvayatvam cha dukkhita Bandha proktaha swarupena, bandha proktaha swarupena, sitihi muktiritiriyate, sitihi muktiritiriyate. Together. Advayananda rupasya sadvayatvam sadukkhita, bandha proktaha swarupena, sitihi muktiritiriyate. So here he is summarizing the problems and the solutions here. Advaya Ananda Swarupascha Swadvayatvam. So Advaya Ananda, what is the nature of the reality? Nature of the reality is Brahman, Brahma Satyam. Satyam means real. So what is Brahma? I thought everything is real, the world is real. Brahman is called Satyasya Satyam. It is absolutely real. What is absolutely real and what is relatively real? Because I am transacting the world, the chair is real, the table is real, and someone said this stone is not real. I think Berkeley or somebody, because the stone is real, not real, and one fellow took the stone and hit him. Now you see that it is real. So question is, what is real, what's not real? Someone in the list, when I was corresponding with many people who are asking questions, and one fellow, one Dvaitine, I know him actually, the Dvaitine says, if everything is Advayam, why don't you drink poison? So because poison is not different from you, if everything is you, then you should drink poison. So that is the type of questions you get. So everything is Advayam doesn't mean that poison, I had to take poison. That's not really means. It is Advayam means non-duality in spite of apparent duality. So just as when I say a scientist, you say everything is electron, protons and neutrons. So that doesn't mean that the still food is food and garbage is garbage. Just because I am a scientist and say fundamentally the same electrons, protons and neutrons are there in the food and in the garbage also. So from that point of the absolute nature, from the electron, protons and neutrons or fundamental particles, everything is same, because there is no difference in the electron protons of this and electron protons of that. That doesn't mean that you can ask me take garbage and throw the food. Garbage is garbage, food is food at the transactional level, and for the absolute level there is a one that pervades everything. Now we are differentiating what is more real compared to what is less real. In the reality that we see, that the food is real and garbage is real. For my if I am hungry, I am going to eat food only, and therefore that reality doesn't change. But if I ask further in terms of what is the essence of food and what is the essence of garbage, then I have become a scientist, put a hat of a scientist and say fundamentally all matter is nothing but electrons, protons and neutrons. So from that standard, that becomes a more real compared to the modifications. So starting from that, he says it became many. Electrons, protons became many. Many what? Many of names, varieties and varieties of food only, and garbage also. So same thing became many. Fundamentally they are same. So if looking at the what is real, then ontologically, that means ontology means degree of reality, the electrons, protons become more real compared to food and garbage. The same way, the fundamentally what this is not our teaching, this is a teaching from the Chandogya. What is real is gold is real, but rings and bangles and necklaces are only modifications, apparent modifications for a particular transaction and utility, transactability and usability. All these abilities are there, but what is not there is stability. Stability means remaining the same. It keeps changing. If you put the garbage food outside for some time, it becomes stinky garbage also. So why? Because it gets spoiled, that you have to throw it. So we are all familiar with that. So essentially, the truth is that which does not undergo any change. So Advayananda Rupam, it is Advayam and Anandam is nothing but that which is unchanging, eternally present, and that is the nature of advayam. It is in spite of duality, fundamentally it is ekam eva advitiyam. Ekam eva is one alone, that is which is pure Satchidananda, which is same as Ananda. Ananda means infiniteness, and that is the nature of Brahman, and that is the nature of myself also. Advayananda rupascha sadvayatvam cha dukkitaha. But I am seeing the duality, sadvayam means the existence of duality, sadvayatvam, the becoming duality becomes a problem, and that's what is going to be cause for samsara. That we'll discuss later as we come back. This sloka 4 we'll analyze again. With this we stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.